What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Carvalho Creations. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Giovanni Carvalho. I'm a super creative dude that loves to make stuff. So this channel is dedicated to me doing just that and showing you how to make your own cool stuff as well. In today's video, because so many of you guys requested it, I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own leprechaun with an interchangeable head. Now, a lot of you guys requested different variations of the leprechaun, so I thought the best thing to do is to make one body and two different heads that completely change the style of this character. And as an added bonus today, I'm going to be reviewing a new airbrush from the Gaahleri brand. This is the Swallowtail Barbados Rex. I'm going to let you guys know if this is worth your money or not. So we got a lot going on in this video, super loaded video, so why don't we get nice and comfortable, because we're about to go wild. All right, what's happening, everyone? So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a leprechaun, and I want to go over the material of this so you know what you need to get this guy going. Now, we're going to be actually doing two sculptures. So I had a request from a lot of you guys where you wanted to see me do a scary looking leprechaun like I typically do, and then also a nicer looking leprechaun. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make one actual body for the character, but as far as the sculpture, I'll go ahead and do two. So let's run through the material list really quick. First and foremost, we're going to be using our cement clay recipe that I shared with you guys a couple months ago. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. It's a really cool video. It's a great recipe that you can be able to use in all your outdoor decor. So I'm going to be using that. I'm also going to be using one of these foam skulls. Now, again, in that same video, I show you how to make these skulls as well as the clay. So we're going to be using this to do our sculpture today. And hopefully you guys can see this guy here, but this is more of the nicer version. Now I'll go ahead and do a creepier version. Now for the body itself, you're going to be needing some kind of piece of wood here. I'm using a 3/4 inch thick piece of plywood, just a scrap piece. It's going to be a small base, so I have something to attach my PVC to. Now I'm going to be using 1/2 inch PVC in various lengths for the actual armature of the character, and then I'll be using my heat gun as well, so you definitely need one of those to bend everything in position to get the pose we're looking for. Now I'm going to be using different couplers to connect the hip joints and also the neck and shoulders here as well. We're going to be using some 16 gauge wire for the arms and hands. Same way I do my puppet hands for everything else. If you guys haven't seen that video, by the way, if you want to see how I do my hands in particular and specifics, then you can definitely go watch that video. It's been up for about a year now, and it's a great video as well. So definitely going to be needing some great stuff as well, just to fill in everything and create a glue. I'm also going to be using the great stuff here as the shoes. So I don't have actual shoes that I'll be using for the character, so I'm going to create them. So I'll go ahead and bend my PVC pipe and screw it down to the wood base, and then I'll use that expanding foam over the top, and then once that cures, I'll carve it into the shape I need for the shoes. I'm also going to be using some toddler clothes and monster mud to create the clothes for the characters. Now, this is going to be a really cool tutorial because it's going to be smaller, probably, let's see, maybe 2 to 3 feet tall. Once he's all finished, it's going to be a really cool character. It's going to have a really wicked look and pose. And then I'm going to be also showing you a brand new airbrush today and reviewing that for you guys as well. So this is going to be a pretty loaded video. I'm going to take you through all the steps, of course, like always. So without any further ado, why don't we get to that first step? All right, to start off our project today, I'm going to be working on the armature, and I'm cutting the legs right now. Now I'm overcutting the legs, and as far as the measurements go, I'm just using my clothes as a basis for the measurements. Now I'm overcutting the legs because I'm going to be bending them and creating the feet out of that same PVC, and I need that little bit of extra so I can bend it and screw it down to my wood base. Now the wood base I'm cutting here, it's a little small. In hindsight, I probably would do a little bit of a larger piece of wood, but this one's about 7 by 12 inches. This is going to be my base plate, and then right here I'm using my PVC glue just to glue all the hip joints and everything in position. Now I always use this PVC glue, and I recommend you guys do too if you're doing this. That way your character never gets loose and comes apart on you. You definitely don't want that. And I'm putting the pants on here and then measuring about 4 inches so I can bend those feet in. Now I'm putting the pants on before because once I screw this down, I'm not going to be able to put it over the PVC, and I want the pants to look natural without any seams or having to cut anything to cause more work. So here I'm just bending the PVC in place and then cooling it down with that water, and then I'll be screwing it down to my base plate here. Now, also as well, I'm going to be bending the knees a little bit so the positioning of the character looks a little more natural. I recommend you guys do this as well. It really helps with your characters to look more realistic, to make them feel like they're actually alive as opposed to just really super straight and awkward looking. And as far as the shoulders here, I'm using a bit of PVC in that neck area and the shoulders, and then I'm going to use my heat gun as well to bend the torso and twist it a little bit. Again, just to create a more natural feel for this. And then for the arms themselves, I'll be drilling a little pilot hole here and then running my 16 gauge wire through that. And then I'll take the end of that 16 gauge wire, put it in my drill truck here, and then tighten it up, spin it on itself to create a stronger arm. Now also I'll be using small pieces of PVC and taping them into place here, making sure to leave the shoulder, elbow, and wrist joints free so they can move. But this is going to give me a little bit of rigidity in the actual arms so they look and move more natural. All right, everyone, so now that we're about here in the build, I wanted to stop and just kind of show you the armature that we're working with and how it's going to look and what the next steps are going to be. So first off, I wanted to put the clothes on here and the head on top so you start to see the character come to life a little bit. Now, the little bends I did in the knees and the torso, it's just to give it a more realistic pose, and you want to kind of get all that down in this armature stage so you're not trying to tweak anything after when you're going to the detail. You want everything to look structurally sound. The Monster Mud, like always, is super heavy when you're using it when it's wet, so you want this to be strong enough to support that. So that's kind of what I'm worried about in this step here. Now, like I mentioned in a lot of my videos, this is the first time I'm doing a character, so when I'm going over the material list in the beginning of the video, you may see me add extra materials or maybe not use certain things that I told you we were going to need, and that's because I've never done one of these before. So this is my first go. I have a rough idea of what I'm going to need to get it started, but sometimes I may need to add just a couple things or subtract a few things that I didn't need after all. So I'm going to show you some of the things we're going to add here. Now I'm going to use chicken wire, a little bit of chicken wire, just for the torso because I want to strengthen that torso so I don't get any bending when I put that heavy chicken wire over the top. And we're also going to be using just a little bit of upholstery foam and some spray adhesive here to fill out the form of the character so he looks more realistic. And then I use this foam head just to put on top as a basis. Now, again, I'm using a little piece of 1/2-inch PVC here so I can switch out the heads. Like I said, we're going to do 2 different sculpts today. So I want the head to be removable just in case you're someone that wants maybe a creepy version half of the year, and then maybe you want to do a nice playful version for the other half. So we're going to do that today. So we're going to go ahead and fill up this character with that foam and spray adhesive, and then we'll go back and start the Monster Mud process. But I just wanted to stop and show you guys this step as far as we come in this process before we get started on that next step. But let's get going. Okay, so for our torso now, to create a little more structure, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of this chicken wire just to create that stability that I'm looking for. Now here, I'm not using any glue or anything to attach to the PVC. I'm just winding that wire around itself to hold it into place. Now, if you haven't worked with chicken wire, definitely use some kind of gloves. It's really going to help you. And then to create the form of the character, I'm going to start with pool noodle like I typically do with most of my characters. Pool noodle is really strong but flexible, and it works as a nice coverage over your skeletal structure, your armature. And then I'm using my spray adhesive with a little bit of upholstery foam just to fill everything in to create that form a little more. Work with the legs upward and then just fill everything as I need. And I recommend you guys take your time with this step too, because your form is going to be underneath the character. If you get this looking right, your character is going to look so much better. So just take your time and work this stage all the way through. And again, for the feet, I'm using expanding foam since I didn't have any shoes, and I'll be carving that later on. All right, so I wanted to stop and just show you this stage. A lot of times when I'm working on my characters, I kind of blow past this stage, and I want to stop and just show you guys my process and how the brain works when I'm getting these little characters going. So you can see this guy kind of put together now. The foam that I attached the feet with, I went ahead and carved so you can kind of see they're in the shape of shoes. So I'll refine that with a little bit of Monster Mud here in a second. I also did put this little piece of PVC pipe in here as well, kind of like a staff for him. I thought he needed a little more character to kind of have more of a cool lean and pose. Now, as far as the hands, If you guys want to see how I make these hands specifically, they're super easy. I just use latex glove and my great stuff with a little bit of water sprayed inside. If you guys want to see that tutorial in detail, you can watch my pinhead video where I show you how to make these hands here. Now, I wanted the hands to be a little oversized for the character so he looks a little more whimsical. That's the idea for the leprechaun anyway. So what I do here, before I start monster mudding, I like to get all the materials set in place, kind of dry fit everything before I start to do my actual work. That way I know all the material I'm going to need, all the pieces, and where they're going to go. So I'm trying to give him a little character before I do the monster mudding. Because once you get to the monster mudding, it's really about applying, layering, and then you don't want to worry about anything else, none of the design. So I am going to actually use this face for this nicer version of our leprechaun here. I thought he worked perfectly. And also too, like the little skulls I had, this head is just a little too small for the body. So what I'm actually using is one of these styrofoam heads. Now, again, I got this at the Dollar Tree around Halloween time. You may have difficulty finding it now. So if you need to expand the size of your head, you can always use a little bit of great stuff and just add it to the foam skull here on the side, let that cure, and then you'll be good. But I just wanted to stop and show you kind of where I'm going with this character design. This is going to be really cool. Like I said, the oversized hands, and because I put the PVC in the arms here, it gives me a little bit of rigidity so I can move this guy around and pose it. I just thought he looked pretty cool with his hand on his hip. Another thing too, the stuff that you're using, you can use anything. Now I'm using this little, because I get so much of this foam air dry clay here. I'm going to use this as a hat because it's the perfect size for him, and then I'll just cut a piece of cardboard for the brim of the hat so he looks like the traditional leprechaun hat. So for the beard for this guy, I'm going to actually take, this is upholstery foam, and I'm going to dip this in the mud and then just stick it into place like his beard, and I'll do the same for his hair. Now in the back here, I don't have the cement clay, so what I'll end up doing is maybe taking a little bit of paper towel, dipping it in the monster mud just to cover this, and then I'll cover everything with hair at the end. But again, just wanted to stop, kind of show you the process. I don't think I've shown you guys this step too many times. So this is the dry fitting process, but you can see how the character's looking already. He's looking great. So now that he's ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and monster mud this guy, and then we'll get over to the sculpt of the more sinister, evil looking leprechaun. Okay, now that we're here at the monster mud process, this stage, now that you have all the design figured out and done, should be pretty easy and straightforward. All your pieces should be pre-cut, so when you go to do this stage, you're not getting a mess or you're trying to cut wet monster mud clothes. It's a really big pain. So in order to avoid that, make sure you have everything cut ahead of time and then just lay your material on. Now, for the staff here, I'm actually wrapping just scrap pieces of fabric around the staff, and I twist some of it to create like this vine look or the bark that you would see in a normal tree like that. The character I want for this guy is to come out looking like he's coming out of the woods, straight up. And again, this is all placement here. The scarf was just another layer of detail to make it look a little bit better. And then as far as his beard as well, just a little bit of that upholstery foam. Apply that and it looks great. To jump into our sculpt today, this is a really quick sculpt. I always start with the eyes, like I've talked about in so many of my other videos. To start this, to prep the foam head, I just used a little bit of tin foil with some hot glue to create the bridge of the nose and to fill in the mouth and to create the ears. And the ears is just a little bit of 16 gauge wire, and then I wrap that with foil and then glue that to the side of the head. That way it gives me a strong structure, because this cement clay is pretty heavy, so you want to make sure that you have the proper support underneath. Now you can see I work from the eyes down and fill everything up, but it's a pretty simple process. I have tons of videos if you guys are looking for more in-depth sculpture or how-to on sculpture. I've done this so many times. And if you guys want to see sculptures in general, maybe I can just do videos on sculpture specifically, please let me know down in the comment section below. I'd love to do that as well. All right, so we just finished our sculpt here. I just wanted to show you guys a little more detailed shot of how he came out. Super quick, probably took maybe half an hour to an hour to sculpt this guy out, but he looks more grumpy, I would say, than sinister, but I really like the way it looks. So I just wanted to show you guys that sculpt, and then also here, just a little more detailed look at what we did with our character and how he looks so far. Now he's giving like Abraham Lincoln vibes, I can see that. But once I get him all painted, it's gonna come out great. This is kind of the step where I start to get excited about the way these characters are coming out. I love seeing them from this step because I know that paint layer is gonna do so much for it. Also too, I just wanted to show here, as far as the shoes on this guy, I went ahead and just took some of that leftover clay I had and sculpted like little points, I guess, to the boots, so give them more style. And you can see how this Monster Mud here is doing. It's a really cool texture to use. And then I'm gonna go ahead and switch out this head real quick so you can see how it changes the vibe here. Receding hairline. So now you can see just how this dude looks and how much that sculpt changes the entire character. Where before it looked more like a pleasant elderly gentleman just admiring something, now it looks more like, you know, this grumpy Scrooged. And if you light him right, he could look a little evil, a little creepy, but that's going to be perfect. I love the way this is coming out. It's going to be super awesome once it's done. But I just wanted to stop and show you guys this step in this stage. Now I want to show you the airbrush we're going to be using to get this paint job done today. All right, everyone, so I want to go over the airbrush we're going to be using today to get our paint job done. This was actually sent to me by this Gaahleri brand here. This is the Swallowtail Barbados Rex airbrush. Now, the company actually reached out to me about the type of airbrush that I wanted, like what kind of work I did, whether it be more fine detail or broader range. And I told them to send me the brush that you'd be able to take right out of the box and use right away in most applications. So they ended up sending me this one here. Now, let me tell you, when it comes down to like budgeting and where I place my value as an artist, I really do my best to get the most inexpensive things when it comes to materials, but tools themselves to learn with, I'll get the basics and just kind of mess around with that. And I still recommend that for my viewers. If you guys are starting off with airbrushing, get yourself a $25 airbrush just so you get the idea and the feel for it. But when you're ready to go into a more advanced, detail-oriented tool, you're gonna need something that's gonna be a little higher quality, and you can't skip out on price when it comes to quality, especially with your tools. So today I'm gonna be showing you this one when you're ready to upgrade a little bit. Now, right off the bat, unpackaging this thing, the build quality is great. They got this little magnetic sleeve here to clip everything in place. And just the presentation of everything is really nice. They did a great job with it here. So as you open it up, the first thing that I enjoy about this is this exploded view here of everything that's in the brush. Now it shows you everything that's in the box actually here as well. And then you get your little objective from the Gaahleri brand itself. Nice little foam insert here. And then as I move this out of the way, you can actually see everything that comes in the box. Now, really super nice the way they stored everything. Now this comes with a couple of replacement needles here on the bottom. You got a 0.7 and a 0.5 millimeter needle for your replacement. For the longevity of the brush, you're gonna have it for a while. Different replacement nozzle tips. And then you have different size containers for your actual paint. So this smaller one is 1/3 of an ounce and this one is 2/3 of an ounce, which is great because when it comes down to my projects, I'll probably use the larger capacity container to spray the majority of my piece to give everything a base coat, and then I can do the fine detail with the smaller reservoir here. So really nice the way they did that. Now when it comes to the actual gun here itself, this thing, the build quality of this thing is amazing. I'm interested to see how exactly this trigger design will work for detail and precision, but what I'm thinking is it's gonna be a lot easier. Now, someone that I have carpal tunnel, I've had surgery on this hand, and this one, I use a brace every night to keep it you know, from getting any worse or any more further nerve damage. So this, I believe, is going to be better for my hands because I get a lot of fatigue when I have the button on top when I'm spraying for a long time. So this, I think, is going to work out really well. But again, I'll test that in a second. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what we're working with here. Now, I can tell right now, the way this feels in the hand, the weight of it, the build quality is absolutely excellent. And I look for that in tools. It's just one of the things I noticed right away is the way the material feels in the hand. Now, none of this is loose here, very well put together. You got your quick connect here in the bottom. I'm gonna be hooking this up to my compressor here in a second so we can get to the next step. But this is the Swallowtail right here. This is gonna be a really fun tool to use. So anyway, if you guys are looking for a new one, this might be your ticket. So go ahead and set this up and we'll get to the next step. To start the painting process, I always use just one layer of latex black paint as a base coat to start off with. All right, so I got my airbrush hooked up now. I'm gonna go ahead and start spraying. Now I got this 2/3 of an ounce reservoir ready to go, and I'm just gonna do a base coat of green over the entire costume. So let's see how this works. Now already it's flowing really well, really smooth. It's a nice strong blast. I only have it at 30 PSI too, but it's doing really well. So I'm gonna bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can see how it's performing. So for my painting process with this gun, that was actually really great. I like to spray my base coat of whatever color I'm working with, and then here I'm going in with a darker shade of green to start to create that depth. So I push it in all the depths of the creases and stuff like that, all around the entire costume. Now, when you're starting off with your painting, it may seem overwhelming, but really just kind of separate the areas that you want to paint into different colors and then go back in with darker shades to create the depth and then lighter shades to create highlights on your pieces. But it's pretty straightforward and simple. Again, I've done a ton of videos where I explain that, and I have an airbrush video where I talk about how I do my layering as well in detail. So definitely go check out that video if you guys want to see a more in-depth tutorial on how to use the airbrush. This airbrush, however, is amazing. So for our faces, the biggest thing I can tell you about the faces when you start, make sure that you have full coverage over your black paint, so none of that black is bleeding through. That way your characters look solid and done correctly. And now I'm going in with a mid-tone like I typically do after I get that base coat done, just to get a little bit of depth going in there. And then we're gonna add one more layer of a darker color to really set in that depth so you can see all the work you did in your sculpture steps. And I'll be doing the same thing to the other sculpt as well. Same type of painting, same steps. And the precision on this brush was really great. I was able to get into all the little cracks and crevices and not have the paint overspray all over. It was really amazing. And again, just one more layer of darkness to create that depth, but this guy already looks so cool. All right, so the majority of the paint is done. I just want to give you guys a little more of a detailed shot of how it came out. Now, when it comes to the airbrush, it worked out incredible. This little bad boy is so cool. This is going to be my new go-to for sure. And I was absolutely right about this trigger. This is a lot less fatigue on your hands than the traditional airbrush, like one of these. Trying to pull back this trigger as you're painting and getting that proper airflow is a little tricky. It puts your hand and everything off balance. So this trigger design is the business. I can shoot full characters like this guy. I did the base coat, and the trigger was great, like my bigger airbrush, but then to get the precision, you can see from the detail here, and again, I'm not even finished with it. This is straight airbrush, no hand painting. It really came out great. Even the thinness of these lines here, I did like a little plaid shirt and some socks to match, and just to see how detailed of a line I can get, and it really came out nice. So this airbrush, I definitely recommend this Swallowtail here by Gaahleri. Great airbrush, and this big reservoir really came in handy to get enough paint on there without having to fill 100 times. So we're not done here though. So the next step, I'm going to do the little details in the actual belts and buckles and stuff like that. And then we'll do a little hand painting as well and untape those eyes so you can see them come to life. But this guy's almost done. It's looking pretty cool. Alrighty, let's get to that next step. Now to add the final details, all I'm going to be doing is taking strips of 5mm craft foam, and I'm cutting them into the small strips for the actual belt and stuff. And I went ahead and used a little screwdriver just to cut in some scratches in like the leather of the actual belts, and then I'm just dry brushing a brown color for the belts. And then these are little buckles with the same 5mm craft foam, but it gives so much more depth to the character with these little extra details and this layering that I like to do here. This is where your characters really start to come to life and take on a whole persona of their own. And again, I'm just hot gluing all this into place. I left the black strip on the hat. I feel like that was more traditional for a leprechaun, but I did do the actual like leather belts and stuff for his torso. I love stepping back and starting to see the characters come to life from this position. They're so cool. I mean, I can do these all day long, and I will be doing these all day long and bringing you different variations of the characters that you guys love to see. So if you have any characters that you want to see in particular, I already have a very long list of things I'm going to be getting to. This is one of them, one of the characters on the list that I've been wanting to get to, and I finally got it done. And I'm so happy the way it came out. So if you guys have other characters you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments section below. Now with this sculpture, I wanted to do a little bit different beard because the other guy used a Monster Mud. So this, I'm actually using yarn. And then I'm going ahead and just using my spray adhesive, gluing it into place. And I have different colors of yarn. This is a white, and then I also have like a brown color as well to mix it in there so you have a variation in color like real hair would be. So I'm going ahead and trying to give it that Irish feel. Now I'm going to use more paint on the beard itself to give it that orangish yellow feel, and then I'll go back in with a deeper orange color here just to really sell that super bright leprechaun look. But I love the way it came out. I think it's so cool. I hope you guys liked today's video. This is definitely something that I enjoy doing very much. If you guys want to see more in the future, I'm going to be here to do more, so stick with us. Until next time, happy creating. Now, wasn't that just the coolest video you ever did see? Actually, I had so much fun making this character for you guys. And the techniques that I showed you in today's video, you'll definitely be able to apply them to all your small characters that you're making, whether you're making gremlins or a Christmas elf, or maybe just something from your own crazy imagination. These techniques are gonna do wonderful for you. And as far as the airbrush that I used today, this thing is so awesome. It's definitely gonna be my new daily driver. You'll be seeing it in my future videos for sure. And in conclusion, would I recommend it to you? Absolutely. So if you guys want to get one for yourself, I'll leave everything you need to know down in the comment section below, as well as another 10% off coupon so you can get your own swallowtail at home. But until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to go wild. I'm Gio from Carvalho Creations, and I'll see you next time. I don't know if it's probably super racist. I'm sorry.